So now the question is, why is America always so concerned about the safety and security of Israel? And the answer is that during the time of exile, God made it that the Jewish people should always have an older brother, so to speak, looking after them. Just like Esav was an older brother to Yaakov. And depending on who the superpower of that time will be, that's a nation that will be looking after the Jewish people. And where one falls, the other one rises. And it's never the same nation that'll be the superpower of the world at all times. And you might ask, why would that be? Why wouldn't God just allow one nation to always be in control if the whole purpose is to protect the Jewish people? And the answer is that during the time of exile, Jewish people are in a dreamlike state. And in a dream, a person could have two opposites that can clash together because of the fact that things are not processed through regular logic. And the same way you can have different leaders coming and going, playing musical chairs as acting superpowers because of the fact that everything is fleeting, just like a dream. Now, it's known also that a Jew can never occupy the highest office of the land during the time that Jewish people are in exile. And we see this throughout history, that Joseph was only the viceroy of Egypt. He was only second in command. You see the same thing by the times of Mordechai, that he was also the second in command to Ahasuerus. But during exile, you won't have that a Jew should become president of the free world. And the reason for that is because during the time of exile, all the energy that comes into this world has to pass through the nations of the world. It's instead of getting the energy directly to the Jewish people, God chose to put his energy through a roundabout path. But the nations of the world don't have a say in the matter as far as control whether to give energy or not give energy. It's similar to the way the sun operates. The sun has a body and a soul, and the soul is what's dictating that it should always be nullified to God and always bow to God. So the sun is always bowing towards the west where the Shekhinah is, because of the fact that the soul, the sun, feels God at every moment, and if it stopped bowing and it stopped being nullified even for one moment, it would cease to exist. You wouldn't see the energy of the sun anymore. So all the energy that's coming from the sun is in a way just going through a pipeline. It's energy coming directly from God, and it's passing through the sun in order to reach us. Obviously, it changes over from being a more refined spiritual energy into being a physical energy, but it's just passing through the sun. The sun doesn't have the permission to decide to shine or not to shine that day. The same thing is the energy that the Jewish people receive through the nations of the world and the decision making of the world. It's not that they actually make those decisions. We say that the hearts of rulers or of ministers or of judges are in the hands of God. So any decision that is made specifically from up on high. Now, we say that the Jewish people are like a sheep that its wool is being shorn off its back, where the nations of the world are taking the original energy that was supposed to go for the Jewish people. They're taking it from them in a way where it's external, where it's just the hairs off our back, and even then the hairs, the way they're disconnected and shorn off our back. And that energy is what's passed back to us, so it appears as if it's coming through them. A person will actually try to direct his business to knowing more about politics and worldly current events to try to impress in order to achieve his goals in this world. But the truth is that the energy that he gets for his business doesn't come from the nations of the world. We also say that the Jewish people are like the same way a fetus is inside of its mother, and all the energy that it gets is from its mother. We say that the Jewish people during exile are in that same state where they receive the energy from the nations of the world. Again, this is their own energy, but because the energy doesn't come directly into the Jewish people, it gets circumvented through the nations of the world and eventually goes back to the Jewish people. Now, God takes his energy and passes it through many different levels in order to reach the nations of the world. And the energy has to go through what we call the 70 ministering spiritual angels. We know, like Esav had an angel that Yaakov fought with, and the same thing applies to all the other nations where the energy has to flow first through their spiritual counterparts in order to go into the nations. There's also a very beautiful Zohar that relays the same concept. It says that when the Jewish people got the Torah, so a certain filth, a spiritual filth, was removed from the world that would have allowed us to live forever. And because we sinned with the golden calf, so that filth was returned to the world and it affected everybody. Because Klippa now has control over life and death, because the filth returned to the world, so it affected everybody. We say that the Shekhinah, which represents the whole sum total of the Jewish people, is in control, is in the hands of the Satan, of Klippa, during the time of exile, which is a reason why every person has to die and no one can live forever. Now, because you have this shell of Klippa that wraps itself around the energy that comes from God, there has to be some kind of way where you break through the Klippa in order to get to where you need to get to. The Mittler writes that when a person goes through the sweat of having to work hard to earn a living, or the fact that a person is broken and trying his heart out to earn another dollar, that's what is the vessel that allows the blessing to come into the person. That's one form of blessing that comes in. There's another form of blessing that's decided before on Rosh Hashanah, whatever the person's supposed to get that year. And again, in both cases, it's not that the person created any energy here. The person just showed up with a cup to receive the blessing that came into him. And not necessarily do we say that from heaven's point of view, they even need the cup in order for you to receive the blessing.